AWS Compute Environments Description. A compute environment is a collection of Amazon EC2 instances that are used to run your AWS batch jobs. Prerequisites: AWS account, enroll for AWS batch, EC2 instance types, use cases, running large-scale batch jobs, deploying applications on a cluster of instances. Steps: create an EC2 instance with a specific instance type. Assign the instance to a security group. Configure the instance's storage. Create an enroll with permissions to access AWS batch. Challenges and fixes. Challenge: insufficient resources for running jobs. Fixes: increase the number of instances in the compute environment. Increase the instance type. Challenge: jobs are failing due to insufficient memory or CPU. Fixes: increase the instance type. Optimize the job code to reduce memory and CPU usage. Challenge: jobs are running too slowly. Fixes: increase the number of instances in the compute environment. Increase the instance type. Optimize the job code to reduce execution time. Challenge: compute environment is not available. Fixes: check if the compute environment is in a valid state. Check if the EC2 instances are healthy. Check if the enroll has sufficient permissions to access AWS batch. Challenge: compute environment is not meeting performance requirements. Fixes: increase the number of instances in the compute environment. Increase the instance type. Optimize the job code to improve performance. Challenge: compute environment is not scaling properly. Fixes: check the compute environment configuration. Adjust the scaling settings as needed. Challenge: compute environment is too expensive. Fixes: use smaller instance types. Reduce the number of instances in the compute environment. Optimize the job code to reduce execution time. Use spot instances for less critical jobs. Challenge: compute environment is not secure. Fixes: use security groups to restrict access to the EC2 instances. Use enrolls to restrict access to AWS batch. Enable security features on the EC2 instances such as encryption and logging. Use AWS Inspector to scan the EC2 instances for vulnerabilities. Use AWS WAF to protect the EC2 instances from web attacks. Challenge: compute environment is not reliable. Fixes: use a high availability architecture. Configure the compute environment for automatic scaling. Monitor the compute environment for errors and take corrective action as needed. Challenge: compute environment is not easy to manage. Fixes: use AWS CloudFormation to automate the creation and management of the compute environment. Use AWS batch to manage the jobs that run on the compute environment. Use AWS CloudWatch to monitor the compute environment and the jobs that run on it. Challenge: compute environment is not integrated with other AWS services. Fixes: use AWS Lambda to integrate the compute environment with other AWS services. Use AWS API Gateway to expose the compute environment as a web service. Use AWS S3 to store the data that the compute environment uses. Challenge: compute environment is not cost-effective. Fixes: use spot instances for less critical jobs. Use AWS reserved instances for more predictable workloads. Optimize the job code to reduce execution time and resource usage. Use AWS Spot Fleet to launch and manage spot instances. Challenge: compute environment is not meeting performance requirements. Fixes: increase the number of instances in the compute environment. Increase the instance type. Optimize the job code to improve performance.